Welcome everyone to episode 26 of Owning Her Health podcast. This is your hostess with the mostest, Dr. Lisa Holland, and we are digging into the mother-daughter complexity, relationship, and how that affects our health as women. And this is such a juicy topic that I found myself wanting to talk for hours and hours and hours, and we can't, right? Because attention spans already, I'm pushing it with the 30-minute episodes. Most people have 6 minutes and then they're either switching or not. So I hope that this couple of minutes here on this introduction piques your interest enough to really understand the deep cosmic wisdom. We're going to be bringing in work by Dr. Christiane Northrup that is the closest practitioner in Western medicine that I find pulls on that goddess wisdom. The work that, I really had to, before I delved into Dr. Northrup's books, I was stuck in the yoga therapy world, and I was stuck in there for the soul work that I do, for the soul healing, the personal development, the deep dives, more on that esoteric language, because those people got it, to be perfectly honest, and so I stayed there. But in reality, I was feeling that urge. And everything that Belly Guru and my company came out of was a desire to some way help other women own their health because of that mother-daughter wound with my own mother. So looking at that book, Mother-Daughter Wisdom, I don't know why. I knew she had the book out. I don't know why I didn't look into it. The same way I don't know why I didn't look at the book my mother gave me, her first book. So we get into a little bit of that. We get in our own way. We know how we are. But understanding at a really deep energetic level. And now we have such nice science things as epigenetics and so much that we're understanding now about relationship building and the social advantage of really changing and maintaining transformational public or population health, however you want to put that. So as I say in all of my episodes, buckle up, plug this baby in on the car ride, do it on the go, have it motivate your soul with energy in another episode of Owning Her Health right now.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
Welcome everyone to episode 26 of Owning Her Health podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Dr. Lisa Holland. As I said in the intro, we are talking about mother-daughter complexity. So this half, there's just so much. I mean, if I had to think about it, or when I have thought about it, this is probably the core motivator to some extent. No, I would say a majority of the reason why I started Belly Guru was because of this stuff. The energetics between the mother and daughter, the reflection, the personal reflection between woman to woman, the need for that collective circle, and that core essence of the mother being that root of I honestly feel society. And when you're looking at relationship in general, and then you look at mothers and daughters, you got to admit every single mother was someone's daughter. So you're already getting that. Like if you are a woman who doesn't have a child, you may not have a daughter, But I'm going to say that if you're a woman who doesn't even have any children, you still are nursing that mothering vibe somewhere in you, because there is a holy trinity. There's a holy trinity of goddesses or the energy of the goddesses in you. And they mix like a bag of tricks. If anybody's into yoga and yogic science, you'll understand this kind of like the gunas. And those of you who are not into yogic sciences, basically the gunas are sort of our mix of energies, being a little fiery, a little active, or very low and kaphic, or like static. And then there's the idea of being sattvic, or very light and just free, and then different aspects of that, different constitutions of that, which actually the science of Ayurvedic medicine is based upon. So, again, this goes down. If you're interested into any of that, we'll probably do a podcast on that or two. You can look into the Vedas and look into Ayurveda. But if you know any of that, and that mix, everybody's a mix of those threes. And I see a similarity of that in working women's health in my system. What I do is I look at the energies of that holy trinity: mother, maiden, and matriarch wisdom. And in my system of looking at things, I really do truly believe that energetically, all three of them are going to come out in your life, whether or not you're in that role. See, women, unfortunately, and you're going to get sick doing it, identify themselves by their role. They identify themselves by their role, like as their identity, like as their being. So whereas a man may say, I'm a father, but he goes to work and he might be able to say, I'm the president of such and such bank, and not necessarily be doing that work in his father energies, be able to split like that. It's a little harder for women. And again, I'm talking generalities and working with hundreds and hundreds of women over the 22 years I've been working in rehab and working in healthcare, and to various capacities and in various age groups. I know I don't want to hear, the comments that, you're talking like I'm not like that. I'm sure you're not in some extent. I'm not saying every woman, because here's the thing, we're all on a spectrum. Okay, you know how people are thinking of sexuality, all on a spectrum? I'm not that person who's saying, no, there's only boys and girls, and everything in between is an abnormality. I'm actually saying everyone is in between. Everyone is in between in terms of their masculine and feminine, and everybody has that bag of tricks. But if you, within your feminine, there's an even deeper complexity. And so now if we add in mother and daughter on top of that, can you see where it gets pretty thick? Now that can look like a burden, but I actually see it as a blessing, because just like how I see motherhood sometimes can seem like a burden to someone who's more career-oriented, hunter, more on the masculinized side of femininity, I see that as a blessing for having a career, for being able to figure out how to really figure the energies out, getting the full spectrum. And we have to do that to be successful at both. So when you're in that mix, when you're in that mothering style of being the mix, I actually think that's an ideal place to be. I'm not saying any other side is wrong. I just personally feel like you really get a lot out of life, because you are learning where to place your energies on that spectrum. And then if you add in having a daughter and being on that spectrum of both, now you're really being tested to expand your point of view, not only in who you are as a woman, but as a daughter, who you are as a reflection of this other woman. And if that other woman is so different in her energy and her style than you, if her ideal of strength is so different than you, that is something you need to navigate, right? That is a whole different ballpark than if she's just like totally like you. And that ease of that. And anybody who has children knows that you can have the sperm and the egg coming from the same two people, and you can have two daughters or two sons, or a daughter and a son, and they're just completely different people, right? Because there's a soul there, there's a spirit there, there's an essence there, okay? And you don't have to be of a certain religion to understand that. There's an energy when someone walks in the room. And when that someone looks like you and you identify with her pains, right? And how it felt to be going through the world awkwardly at certain ages and having these things such as bleeding or breasts and pain, literal physical pains that accompany maybe your menstrual. Now, that's not normal. So if you're dealing with that, that's another conversation. That has been normalized, but that actually is not normal. But, there is research that shows the tendency towards having dysfunction isn't necessarily just the genes. It's your mother's attitude towards her body experiences. It's your mother's attitude towards her mental perspective of her happy, her satisfaction, her engagement in life. There is research showing that the amount of oxytocin for bonding with you as a child is affected by the trauma she endured during childbirth. So you are in the soup of her. And so for a woman coming out of another woman, there's this even deeper bond because your whole image on what a woman is, right? Every child looks at their mother as their world. There's a period in your life where she's your world. And literally when you're in her gut, in her uterus, that is your world. That's the only perception of the world. So all of the chemistry going on in her is your world, is your perception. So all of that heaviness we've been feeling. Now I'm recording this in September, and it's been a heavy month of natural disasters and everything from the solar eclipse we were in the path to literally destruction after destruction of land by fire, by water. 200 years ago, we would have gotten the message that, hey, something is unhappy, and we might have changed, but it's like that. It's like that. So getting into mother-daughter, you see how there's so much juiciness? You see how I can't possibly bring in the complexity of all of it in 30 minutes, so it's going to be 2 episodes. 2 episodes, an hour of talking into this. And this particular one is laying down the groundwork of just even understanding mother and child and then daughter. So now you don't just have the double XX mirror that we've talked about in other podcast episodes, but you now have 4. You have that squared. And can you imagine that? So I'm going to pull, because it's so big, and I'm going to pull from one of my favorite medpreneurs, Dr. Christiane Northrup. And the reason Dr. Christiane Northrup is my favorite medpreneur, honestly, she is because she's an OBGYN. She was a radical. She decided, and she said it herself, I've heard interviews of her. She had a great interview and part of Kate Northrup, her daughter's origin collective beta group and membership. And she had maybe a master class in there where she was saying, it was higher. It was heresy for her in the 80s or 90s or whenever she was talking about nutrition for these women for their care. And that being the medicine. And it was like cuckoo birds there. And I'm not belittling mental illness. I'm sorry if that was the wrong things to say. I'm just saying that it was literally like in the medical field for her, the allopathic Western medical field, it was looked at like that. Like she was just having a problem. She was not following the crowd. And so, of course, fellow unicorns just get drawn to fellow unicorns. But she was the first medpreneur in women's health that I saw making a go of being able to talk about that energy stuff. And I heard her, and I could tell she was well versed or exposed to the things I was hearing in yogic sciences and the chakras and the levels of self in that way, and looking at life, way before. We're talking, I started my practice in 2005. Belly Guru came at a time where, we weren't. I mean, she published this book, Mother-Daughter Wisdom, which I'm going to pull the rest of this from, in going into that, and just the very beginning of it. And I do recommend her book. She published this in 2005. Belly Guru LLC was born in 2005. So it came from that same understanding. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't look at this book till now. I didn't look at this. I knew she had it, but I didn't look at this book. And that's what's beautiful about universal divine feminine wisdom. It is something that you pull down, that you transcribe. That's that wisdom that you are looking through something. You see a meme, and you're like, yes, girl. Yes. Yes, Tony Robbins. I hear you. And he didn't make that up, but you're both feeding from the same known truth. And do you understand? Do you understand that women are intuitively tied into this cosmic universal truth? Call it God, call it Goddess, call it Mother Nature, call it consciousness, call it whatever the hell you want to call it. Women, on your cycle, you literally have studies that show your intuitive ability, your ability to kind of like know, and you just know it, right? A mother's wisdom, a mother knows when across, how many stories have you heard about that? She knew when her child died. She knew as she was carrying it, her child died and was not there. She knew from across the country something happened. Her child's off at war, or her husband, or her mother, right? Her sister. This stuff is stuff that when you don't speak to your daughter about her tapping into that juice, her having that superpower, when you make it that quiet time, that stuff we don't talk about, when there's women in other countries who are forced to go into a hut and miss school and condemned and squat for a week, that's the stuff, that's the magic, that's the superpower, that's the oppression, that's the stuff that needs to come through in a mother-daughter wisdom kind of way. That grandeur of it, because you are tapping into the universe. You are on, do you understand, my dear? Do you understand what you're denying? What might have been denied from you? When you don't explain to your daughter that her body is sacred, when you're looking in a mirror and she first looks up at you saying that you're on a diet for the umpteenth time because and she thinks you're beautiful. When your daughter looks at you, those first 6-7 years before she knows, and it's getting younger and younger, which is why we need to have these goddess chats very young with our daughters about how awesome they are in their body. This stuff, you know what? Guys should be jealous. We shouldn't be jealous of guys not having a period and not having to have a baby. They should be jealous of us. Because it's us tapping into the moon, the tides. Do you understand that cosmic connection? That is amazing. So Christiane Northrup, for me, was talking all that. And I got to tell you, I pushed it away because of my own mother-daughter relationship issues with my mother. And my difficulty in seeing my energy juxtaposed against her energy and not understanding that kind of love she had in a relationship where she felt less than. And I didn't feel that way. In fact, I challenged my father and I challenged her to both step up. And I challenged him a lot of times to step in for her. And so all of that makes perfect sense to me. So why did I take 18 years between when I was introduced to her first book, by my mother, by the way, who honestly, I'm not sure, she died of ovarian cancer. And I never really was at this place where I could be like, did you read that book you gave it to me? Or did you what was the deal of that? Because she didn't live it at all. But, what took me 18 years between that first book that was Miss Northrup's first book and actually opening up this book, which I know she had. I just never did look at it. I don't know. But again, confirmation that this stuff's out there for us to find and to come across these podcasts and to solidify, and maybe it's to give us permission to own, right? Not only own our health, but own our wealth, own our power, own all of this, all of this cosmic library that we keep seeking outside, but it's within. And I'm going to read something. And what I'd love for you to do is, if you're listening in and have the ability to put your feet on the ground, take your shoes off, put your feet in the dirt, in the grass, if not, at least on any hardwood floors you have, and sit up nice and tall. And just take a load off of your shoulders. We're going to do a little bit of awareness and understanding of this energy and where it might be held. If you're somebody that's thinking, if you're 18 minutes into this and you're still thinking that, I think you're lying to yourself right now. But if you are and you're questioning it, I want to do a little experiment. And I'm going to take this right out of Christiane Northrup's book of Mother-Daughter Wisdom, Creating a Legacy of Physical and Emotional Health. And I direct you towards that book if this episode and the next episode are speaking to you. I want you to sit there while I read the first words on chapter 1 to you. And I just want you to, first time around, you might just listen. But the second time around, maybe you notice something and you want to do it again and just watch in a different way. But if you can, have your feet in the ground. Have the tail of your seat sitting in a chair, or if you're standing in that ground, have your fingertips reaching towards the floor. If you're seated, have your hands resting on your knees. Crown of the head high, tailbone just releases low. And I want you to take a nice deep cleansing breath. Inhale. And exhale completely. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of the yummy that people who work with me private get. And read to you. Mothers and daughters, just take a notice. The bond that wounds, the bond that heals. Where does that hit you? Does it hit you? Does that feel like truth to you? The bond that wounds, the bond that heals. Does it all of a sudden get you thinking of a story? A memory? The mother-daughter relationship is at the headwaters of every woman's health. Our bodies and our beliefs about them were formed in the soil of our mother's emotions, beliefs, and behaviors. Even before birth, our mothers provide us with our first experience of nurturing. She is our first and most powerful female role model. It is from her that we learn what it is to be a woman and care for our bodies. Our cells divided and grew to the beat of her heart. Our skin, hair, heart, lungs, and bones were nourished by her blood. Blood that was awash with the neurochemicals formed in response to her thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. If she was fearful, anxious, or deeply unhappy about her pregnancy, our bodies knew it. And if she felt safe and happy and fulfilled, we felt that too. Our bodies and those of our daughters were created by a seamless web of nature and nurture, of biology informed by consciousness, and that we can trace back to the beginning of time. Thus, every daughter contains her mother and all the women who came before her. The unrealized dreams of our maternal ancestors are part of our heritage. To become optimally healthy and happy, each of us must be clear about the ways in which our mother's history both influenced and continues to inform our state of health, our beliefs, and how we live our lives. Every woman who heals herself helps heal all the women who came before her and all those who will come after her. Take a scan. Start at the feet. Move up the body. Is there any area that's calling to you right now? Is there any area as you move up joint to joint, muscle level to muscle level, that feels a little tight? I'm going to end this episode right there. I want you to be there. I want you to journal on that. I want you to understand how it feels and where you are in that. And in next episode, we're going to get deeper into what that's all about. So am I leaving you with a cliffhanger? I want you to journal on that. I want you to know, think about how you felt. Think about some of the things we talked about in this episode. And then come on back and we're going to dive a little deeper. Thanks so much, guys, for another wonderful episode of Owning Her Health. I will see you on episode 27, where we're going to talk about the mama bear and some of the other things in that mother-daughter relationship. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health with Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.